You know what's wild? The same people who handed you darkness, struggle, and pain are now terrified because they just figured out what you've been doing in the shadows. You weren't breaking, you were building. And that suffering they gave you, you turned it into the sharpest blade they'll ever face. Let me tell you something nobody wants to admit out loud. There's this belief floating around that suffering weakens you, that struggle breaks you down, that when life hits you hard enough, you're supposed to stay down. That's the story they want you to believe. That's the narrative they need you to accept, because if you stay broken, you stay controllable. If you stay hurt, you stay small. If you stay in pain, you stay exactly where they left you. But here's the truth they never saw coming. Here's the plot twist that keeps them up at night. You didn't stay where they left you. You took every ounce of that suffering, every moment of that struggle, every second of that pain, and you alchemized it. You transformed it. You weaponized it. Think about what happens when carbon gets buried deep underground, crushed under unimaginable pressure, subjected to forces that would obliterate anything weak. Does it crumble? Does it disappear? No, it becomes a diamond, the hardest natural substance on Earth. Something so valuable, so rare, so indestructible that people spend lifetimes searching for it. That pressure didn't destroy the carbon. It revealed what it was always capable of becoming. That's exactly what happened to you. Every rejection taught you self-reliance. Every betrayal showed you who truly matters. Every failure became a masterclass in what not to do. Every moment someone underestimated you became fuel for your transformation. They thought they were burying you. They had no idea they were planting you. You remember those nights, don't you? The ones where sleep felt impossible because the weight of everything was crushing your chest. The moments when you looked in the mirror and barely recognized the person staring back. The times when giving up seemed like the only logical choice because continuing forward required more strength than you thought you had. Those moments weren't random. They weren't punishment. They were the forge. And you were being hammered into something unbreakable. See, they made a critical miscalculation. They assumed your breaking point was close. They thought a little more pressure, a little more pain, a little more isolation would finish the job. They expected you to wave the white flag, to accept defeat, to become another cautionary tale about someone who couldn't handle the heat. But you did something they never anticipated. You stopped trying to escape the fire. You learned to dance in it. While they were watching for your collapse, you were quietly studying. While they were waiting for your surrender, you were strategizing. While they were celebrating what they thought was your demise, you were being reborn. Every insult became motivation. Every obstacle became a training ground. Every setback became a setup for something they couldn't even imagine. Here's what really gets me. The same energy they used to try to destroy you is now the exact energy powering your rise. It's like they handed you ammunition and expected you not to load the gun. They gave you reasons to quit and somehow thought you wouldn't turn those into reasons to persist. They showed you what rock bottom felt like and genuinely believed you wouldn't use that as the foundation to build something magnificent. That's not luck. That's not chance. That's you making a conscious decision that the narrative doesn't end with your defeat. That's you choosing to take what was meant to break you and letting it make you. That's you understanding that the greatest power move isn't avoiding pain, it's transforming it. You know what happens when metal goes through the tempering process? It gets heated to extreme temperatures, then rapidly cooled, then heated again. Back and forth. Fire and ice. Stress and relief. Over and over. And every single cycle makes it stronger, more flexible, more resilient. That's not theory, that's metallurgy, that's science. And that's exactly what's been happening to you. Every time life heated you up with stress, pressure, and chaos, then cooled you down with brief moments of relief, you got stronger. Every cycle, every season, every chapter, you became more resilient than you were before, more adaptable, more capable, more dangerous to anything trying to stop you. And now they're watching you move through life with a confidence they can't understand. They see you handling pressure that would crush most people, and you're not even flinching. They watch you navigate chaos with a calmness that seems impossible. They witness you achieving things they swore you'd never accomplish. And it's confusing to them because in their minds, you should still be broken. You should still be struggling. You should still be where they left you. But here's what they missed. Here's what they fundamentally misunderstood about the human spirit. Adversity doesn't just test us, it teaches us. Struggle doesn't just challenge us, it changes us. Pain doesn't just hurt us, it instructs us. And once you graduate from that school, once you earn that degree in resilience, you become someone entirely different. Someone they no longer recognize, someone they can no longer control. You're not moving through life the same way anymore. There's a different energy, a different presence, a different certainty. People can feel it when you walk into a room. There's this quiet power that comes from someone who's been to hell and decided to redecorate instead of running. There's this unshakable confidence that radiates from someone who knows their breaking point is further than most people's finish line. And that's what terrifies them. Not that you survived. Survival they could handle. What terrifies them is that you thrived. What keeps them awake is that you transformed. What haunts them is that you took their worst and turned it into your best. They handed you suffering expecting it to be your end. You turned it into your beginning. Think about a wildfire tearing through a forest. Devastating, right? Destructive. Catastrophic. Everything turns to ash. But here's what most people don't know. Some seeds, certain species of trees, they require fire to germinate. They literally need the intense heat to crack open their protective coating so new life can emerge. Those seeds can sit dormant for years, decades even, waiting for fire. And when it comes, when everything around them is burning, that's when they finally wake up. That's when they finally begin. You were that seed. All those years of dormancy, of feeling stuck, of wondering when your time would come. And then the fire arrived. The suffering, the struggle, the pain. It burned away everything that wasn't essential, everything that wasn't authentic, everything that wasn't you. And from those ashes, from that destruction, emerged someone powerful, someone purposeful, someone they never saw coming. Here's what's beautiful about this whole thing. You're not looking for revenge. You're not consumed with proving them wrong. You're not obsessed with making them see what they missed. You're too busy building, too focused on growing, too committed to your evolution to waste energy on their validation. And that right there, that's the real victory. That's the ultimate power move. You took what they gave you and used it to become so complete within yourself that their opinions became irrelevant. They watch you now and they can't figure it out. How are you so calm? How are you so focused? How are you so unbothered? Where's the bitterness? Where's the anger? Where's the brokenness they left you with? And the answer is simple. You processed it. You learned from it. You extracted every lesson, every insight, every piece of wisdom from that suffering, and then you left the rest behind. You took the weapon, mastered it, and walked away from the battlefield they were still fighting on. That's evolution. That's transformation. That's what happens when someone refuses to let their story be written by people who don't understand their potential. You took the pen from their hands and wrote a completely different ending. One where the villain doesn't win. One where suffering isn't the conclusion. One where you emerge not as a victim, but as a victor. And now every step you take forward is a testament to something they never believed in. Your resilience, your strength, your capacity to turn poison into medicine. Every goal you achieve is proof that their judgment was flawed. Every boundary you set shows them that their access to you was a privilege, not a right. Every moment you choose peace over chaos demonstrates that you've mastered something they're still struggling with. You're operating on a different frequency now. While they're still focused on tearing others down, you're building yourself up. While they're still trapped in the same destructive patterns, you've broken free. While they're still wondering why their life feels empty, you're filling yours with purpose, growth, and intention. The suffering they gave you didn't make you like them. It made you better than you were. And that's the distinction they can't comprehend. Here's the thing about carrying a weapon. It's not about using it on everyone who crosses your path. It's about the confidence that comes from knowing you can protect yourself. You don't walk around broadcasting your strength. You don't need to prove it. You just move differently when you know you're capable of handling whatever comes. That's where you are now. That suffering taught you that you can handle more than most people will ever face. And that knowledge changes everything. You see challenges differently now. What used to feel overwhelming now feels like just another problem to solve. What used to trigger panic now triggers strategy. What used to make you question yourself now makes you trust yourself more because you've got evidence. You've got receipts. You've got a track record of overcoming that speaks louder than any doubt. They're realizing now that they created their own opposition. They trained their own competition. They armed their own challenge. Every time they tried to diminish you, they actually added to your arsenal. Every time they tried to limit you, they expanded your capacity. Every time they tried to define you, you redefined yourself into something they couldn't categorize. And the beautiful irony, you don't even see them as enemies anymore. You see them as teachers. Unintentional, unwilling, painful teachers, but teachers nonetheless. They showed you what you don't want to become. They demonstrated behaviors you refuse to mirror. They gave you a clear picture of the person you're committed to never being. And in doing so, they actually helped you clarify your path. That's mastery. That's wisdom. That's what happens when someone processes their pain instead of projecting it. You could have become bitter. You could have become vengeful. You could have become a mirror reflection of what hurt you. But you made a different choice. You decided that their actions wouldn't dictate your character. Their choices wouldn't determine your values. Their darkness wouldn't dim your light. So now they watch from a distance, trying to figure out how you did it, how you went from broken to powerful, from struggling to thriving, from surviving to inspiring. And the answer is simple but profound. You stopped asking why this happened to you and started asking what you could learn from it. You stopped seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances and started seeing yourself as a student of life. You stopped waiting to be rescued and started becoming your own hero. Every morning you wake up now, there's a different energy. There's this knowing, this understanding that whatever today brings, you've faced worse. Whatever challenge appears, you've overcome harder. Whatever obstacle emerges, you've got the tools. Because suffering wasn't just something that happened to you. It became something that happened for you. It became your greatest teacher, your toughest trainer, your most transformative experience. And they're just now realizing what you figured out a while ago. That suffering, when processed correctly, doesn't weaken you. It weaponizes you. It sharpens you. It prepares you. It transforms you into someone who doesn't just survive storms, but learns to harness their power. Someone who doesn't just endure pressure, but uses it to become something precious. Someone who doesn't just carry pain, but converts it into purpose. You're not the same person who entered that dark season. How could you be? You've been refined. You've been tested. You've been proven. And what emerged on the other side isn't someone who barely made it through. It's someone who came out stronger, wiser, more focused, more determined, and more powerful than before. That's not survival. That's evolution. That's transformation. That's what happens when you refuse to let your worst moments define your final chapter. Let me break down what really happened during all those dark times. When they were inflicting pain, they thought they were destroying your foundation. But what they actually did was excavate space for something greater. Think about construction for a second. Before you build a skyscraper, before you create something that touches the clouds, you have to dig deep. You have to excavate. You have to remove layers and layers of earth to create a foundation strong enough to support what's coming. That digging process looks destructive. It looks like you're making a hole, creating emptiness, tearing things apart, but you're actually preparing for elevation. That's what your suffering did. It dug deep into your soul, removed the superficial layers, cleared away the weak foundations you were building on, and created space for something solid, something unshakable, something that could support the version of you that was waiting to rise. They thought they were tearing you down. They were actually preparing your foundation for a level of success they couldn't even imagine. And here's where it gets really interesting. During that process, during all that pain and struggle, you learned something invaluable. You learned what you're made of. Not the surface stuff, not the persona you show the world, not the version of yourself that exists when everything's easy. You learned what you're made of when everything is stripped away, when all your crutches are removed, when all your safety nets are gone, when it's just you, raw and exposed, facing circumstances that would break most people. That knowledge is power. That self-awareness is a weapon, because now you know. You know exactly how much you can handle. You know exactly how strong you are. You know exactly what you're capable of when pushed to your limits. And that knowledge gives you a confidence that can't be faked, can't be taught, and can't be taken away. It's earned. It's forged. It's proven. Most people go through life never truly testing themselves. They stay in comfortable zones, avoid major challenges, take the safe path, and never really discover what they're capable of. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's a valid way to live. But you didn't get that option. Life, circumstances, other people, they didn't give you the luxury of the safe path. They threw you into the fire. And in that fire, you discovered something most people never find: your true capacity. You discovered that you're stronger than you thought, more resilient than you imagined, more capable than anyone told you. And now you walk through life with the confidence of someone who knows they've already faced their worst and survived it. That's a different kind of power. That's a different kind of energy. That's what makes you dangerous to anything trying to stop you. Think about a sword being forged. The blacksmith doesn't just heat the metal once. It's a process. Heat it, hammer it, cool it. Heat it again, hammer it again, cool it again. Over and over. Each cycle removes impurities, aligns the molecular structure, makes it stronger. The sword doesn't emerge perfect on the first try. It's refined through repetition, through continuous exposure to extreme conditions, through relentless hammering and shaping. Your life has been that process. Every challenge was another cycle in the forge. Every hardship was another round of refinement. Every obstacle was another opportunity to remove impurities, align your purpose, strengthen your resolve. And with each cycle, you became sharper, more refined, more effective, more powerful. They're looking at you now and seeing the finished product. They're seeing the sharp edge, the balanced weight, the lethal effectiveness. But they weren't there for the forging. They don't know about the countless times you were heated to your breaking point and held together anyway. They don't know about the relentless hammering you endured while maintaining your core. They don't know about the cooling periods where you had to rest and recover before facing the next round. All they see is the weapon, and it terrifies them. Because a weapon forged through suffering is different from one that's manufactured without stress. It's got a different quality, a different strength, a different reliability. When you know your weapon has been tested under extreme conditions and held up, you trust it differently. You wield it with different confidence. You know it won't fail when things get intense because intensity is exactly what created it. That's you now. You're not untested theory. You're proven reality. You're not potential strength. You're demonstrated resilience. You're not possible capability. You're verified power. And that difference is everything. Here's something else they didn't anticipate. When you go through intense suffering and come out the other side, you develop something psychologists call post-traumatic growth. It's the opposite of post-traumatic stress. Instead of being damaged by trauma, you're enhanced by it. You develop stronger relationships because you value authentic connection. You discover new possibilities because you're no longer limited by old fears. You gain deeper appreciation for life because you've seen how fragile it can be. You find personal strength you didn't know existed because you had to tap into it to survive. This isn't toxic positivity. This isn't pretending bad things are actually good. This is acknowledging that human beings have this remarkable capacity to extract growth from adversity, to find meaning in suffering, to transform pain into purpose. And you did that. Whether you realized it at the time or not, every day you chose to keep going, you were choosing growth. Every moment you refused to quit, you were building strength. Every time you got back up after being knocked down, you were proving your resilience. And now you're reaping the rewards of those choices. You're experiencing the benefits of that growth. You're leveraging that strength. You're utilizing that resilience. And it's paying dividends in ways that surprise even you. Challenges that would have destroyed the old version of you are now just minor inconveniences. Obstacles that would have seemed impossible are now just puzzles to solve. Setbacks that would have triggered complete collapse now just trigger strategic recalibration. You're not the same person. You can't be. Too much has changed. Too much has been transformed. Too much has been refined. And the people who knew the old you, the people who inflicted the suffering that catalyzed this transformation, they're shocked, they're confused, they're trying to reconcile the person they tried to destroy with the person standing in front of them who is clearly thriving. Let me tell you what they're really afraid of. It's not your success, it's not your strength, it's not even your resilience. What they're really afraid of is the mirror you hold up to them. Because your transformation exposes their stagnation. Your growth highlights their lack of it. Your evolution makes their remaining in place look like the choice it actually is. They've been dealing with the same struggles, facing the same challenges, experiencing the same pain, but while you transformed yours, they just carried theirs. And seeing you rise forces them to confront the reality that they didn't have to stay where they are. That's uncomfortable. That's confronting. That's why they're watching you with that mixture of amazement and resentment. Because you're living proof that suffering doesn't have to be the end of the story. You're walking evidence that pain can be processed into power. You're breathing confirmation that what happens to us doesn't determine who we become. How we respond to what happens does. And they can't deny it. They can't argue with it. They can't explain it away. Because you're right there in front of them, demonstrating a truth they're not ready to accept. That they could have made different choices, that they could have processed their pain differently, that they could have transformed their suffering into strength. And the fact that they didn't makes your success feel like their failure, which it isn't. But that's how they're experiencing it. Your job isn't to manage their feelings about your transformation. Your job isn't to dim your light so they feel better about their darkness. Your job isn't to shrink yourself so they feel less exposed. Your job is to keep rising, keep growing, keep evolving, keep becoming the fullest expression of who you're meant to be. Because that's how you honor the suffering. That's how you make it meaningful. That's how you ensure that all that pain created something valuable. Think about pearls for a second. They're created when an irritant, a piece of sand or debris, gets inside an oyster shell. It's uncomfortable. It's painful. It's problematic. The oyster could reject it, try to push it out, focus all its energy on removing the source of discomfort. But instead, the oyster does something remarkable. It secretes nacre, a smooth crystalline substance, layer upon layer around the irritant. And over time, that painful intrusion becomes a pearl, something beautiful, something valuable, something sought after. That's what you did with your suffering. Instead of constantly trying to remove it, to push it out, to pretend it didn't exist, you surrounded it with layers of growth, wisdom, and strength. You transformed the irritant into something valuable. You turned the source of pain into the source of your power. And now what once hurt you has become part of what makes you extraordinary. The people who gave you that irritant, who caused that pain, who created that suffering, they're looking at the pearl you've created and trying to figure out how it happened. They're seeing the value, the beauty, the rarity, and they're confused because in their mind they just caused you pain. They just created problems. They just made your life harder. They didn't realize they were giving you the raw material for transformation, but you knew. Maybe not consciously at first, maybe not with full awareness during the darkest moments, but somewhere deep inside you knew that this pain had purpose, this suffering had meaning, this struggle was building something, and you leaned into that knowing. You trusted that process, you allowed the transformation to happen, and now here you are, stronger, wiser, more powerful, more focused, more authentic, more aligned with who you truly are. And all of it was forged in the fire they lit. All of it was shaped by the pressure they applied. All of it was refined by the suffering they caused. They handed you the raw materials for your transformation and expected you to remain unchanged. That was their mistake. You know what the most powerful part of all this is. You're not bitter about it. You're not consumed by resentment. You're not obsessed with payback. You've moved past that. You've transcended that. You've evolved beyond the need for revenge because you understand something they don't. The best revenge isn't getting even. It's becoming so complete, so whole, so powerful within yourself that their opinions no longer matter. It's rising to such heights that their level doesn't even register on your radar anymore. That's where you are. That's where you're headed. That's what all this suffering prepared you for. Not to go back and settle scores. Not to prove anything to people who don't matter. But to step fully into your power and build the life you're meant to live. To pursue the goals that actually align with your values. To create the impact you're designed to make. To become the person you've always had the potential to be. They gave you suffering. You turned it into a weapon. But not a weapon to hurt others, a weapon to protect yourself, to defend your peace, to cut through obstacles, to carve your own path, to clear space for your dreams. That's what this was all for. That's what this was always about. Your liberation, your evolution, your transformation. So let them watch, let them wonder, let them try to understand how someone they tried to break became unbreakable. Let them attempt to figure out how someone they tried to diminish became undeniable. Let them wrestle with the reality that their worst became your fuel for being your best. Because while they're processing all that, you've got work to do. Dreams to chase, goals to achieve, a life to build, a legacy to create. The suffering they gave you isn't your identity. It's not your story. It's not who you are. It's what happened to you. And what you did with what happened is where the real story lives. That's the narrative that matters. That's the tale worth telling. Not what they did to you, but what you became in spite of it. What you created because of it. What you transformed it into. You took their weapon and made it your own. You took their ammunition and loaded your own gun. You took their fire and forged your own sword. And now you're moving through life armed with resilience they'll never understand, strength they'll never possess, and wisdom they'll never acquire. Because they've never done what you did. They've never transformed suffering into power. They've never weaponized pain. They've never turned their darkest season into their greatest strength. That's your edge. That's your advantage. That's your secret weapon. And it's not secret anymore. They can see it. They can feel it. They can sense it. And it's changing how they move around you, how they speak to you, how they approach you, because they know now. They've finally figured it out. The suffering they gave you didn't destroy you. It created something they never expected. Something they can't control. Something they're not prepared to face. You. at your most powerful, you fully awakened, you completely unleashed, you armed with the lessons that only suffering can teach, you equipped with the strength that only adversity can build, you possessing the wisdom that only pain can impart. That's what they're dealing with now. That's what they created. That's what they're realizing they armed. And the beautiful thing? This is just the beginning. This is just the foundation. This is just you getting started. Because someone who can transform suffering into strength can transform anything. Someone who can weaponize pain can weaponize any experience. Someone who can turn their darkest moment into their greatest asset can turn any situation into an advantage. You're not just recovering from what happened. You're not just surviving what you went through. You're leveraging it. You're utilizing it. You're deploying it every day, in every situation, in every challenge. That suffering gave you a lens to see through, a filter to process experiences, a framework to navigate life. And you're using it consciously, intentionally, powerfully. So when they look at you now with that mixture of shock and fear, when they try to understand how you turned their attack into your armor, when they attempt to figure out what happened, just smile. Just keep building. Just keep rising. Because their understanding isn't required for your success. Their approval isn't necessary for your growth. Their validation isn't needed for your transformation. You've already won. The moment you decided that suffering wouldn't define you, wouldn't limit you, wouldn't stop you, you won. The moment you chose to transform instead of transferring pain, you won. The moment you weaponized what they gave you instead of being destroyed by it, you won. Everything from here is just you collecting the rewards of that decision. Just you reaping the benefits of that choice. Just you experiencing the payoff of that transformation. They gave you suffering. You turned it into your superpower, and that's a plot twist they'll never stop trying to understand, but will never fully grasp. Because transformation is something you can only truly understand if you've experienced it, and they haven't. They're still carrying their pain, still nursing their wounds, still stuck in their suffering, while you've moved past it, grown through it, and emerged stronger because of it. That's the difference. That's the distinction. That's what separates those who survive from those who thrive, those who endure from those who evolve, those who merely continue from those who transform. You chose transformation, and that choice made all the difference. What they meant to break you with is now what makes you unbreakable. So here's my question for you. What suffering are you ready to transform into your greatest strength? Drop it in the comments. Let's turn this whole section into a testament of transformation.